You know, that feeling, right? When an idea just clicks, the little spark, that feeling like, okay, yeah, there's something here. We've talked about that before, that first grasp.
Absolutely. That's the raw stuff. The source material we're digging into calls it hukma, wisdom, that first hit.
Right, Hoshma. But, you know, that's just the spark. What we're getting into today, this deep dive, it's all about what happens next. How do you take that spark, that raw thought, and actually build it, make it solid, turn it into real understanding?
Well, that's exactly where Bina comes in. It's fascinating. The source, it's rooted deep in a spiritual philosophical tradition.
Yeah.
And it really unpacks Bina understanding. Contemplation. It's like the engine that takes that raw Hokmah spark and turns it into actual structured thought.
Okay, so Hokmah is like getting a really cool raw ingredient.
Yeah, exactly.
And Bina's figuring out the whole recipe, like developing the dish.
That's a great analogy. And our mission here, for you listening, is really to pull out the methods the source talks about, ways to cultivate a mind that's, you know, active, insightful, not just passively soaking things up.
Moving beyond just being a sponge.
Right. Training your mind to be like an engine of understanding, not just a storage closet.
Okay, so let's recap quickly. Hushma, that's the first flash. The sense that something's there, even if you can't quite articulate it yet. Starting point.
Exactly. That pure point. Before the analysis, before connecting the dots.
Which leads us straight into Bina, the development stage, the heavy lifting. And the source lays out a few ways to do this, right? Some internal, some maybe less ideal.
Yeah, the simplest way, maybe the most obvious one, is just asking someone else. External consultation.
Ah, the easy route.
Right. Look it up, ask an expert. But the source actually flags this, especially at first.
Why? Seems efficient.
Well, the risk is you kind of short-circuit your own thinking. You get the answer, sure, but you haven't done the internal work, the building of the understanding yourself. Ah, that makes sense. You're just like borrowing their mental framework instead of constructing your own. So, okay, what about the internal methods, the ones the source really emphasizes?
The first big one is comparison. Taking that initial thought, that piece of info, and actively comparing it to, well, everything else you already know.
Okay, comparing. How does that actually work? Like, what are you looking for?
Well, you look for similarities, first off. How does this new thing fit with what I already get? That helps build on your existing mental structures, reinforces things.
Makes sense, connects the dots.
But, and this is key, you also look for differences. And, crucially, contradictions.
Okay, differences, yeah, I get that. But contradictions, why focus on things that seem to clash? Doesn't that just muddy the waters?
Ah, but that's where, according to this source, it gets really, really potent. Contradictions force you to engage on a much deeper level.
How? Because you can't just dismiss one side. You have to really understand both parts of the contradiction. Then your mind, using this Bina faculty, it tries to figure it out. How can these both be true or seem true? How do they resolve?
Okay, what happens when you try to resolve that tension?
Well, sometimes it just shows you one piece was wrong. Simple as that. Maybe your initial thought or the thing you were comparing it to.
Like fact-checking yourself internally.
Exactly. The source gives examples like hearing a story where the timeline just doesn't add up, you know, 3 contradictions in 5 minutes.
Right, or like finding a math error on a receipt, or conflicting historical dates.
Precisely. If you're not actively comparing, you just kind of accept those things without even noticing. Your mind stays passive.
So comparison is like an internal quality control filter.
You could say that. But the other outcome, which is maybe even more profound, is that sometimes wrestling with that apparent contradiction, it reveals a deeper layer, a higher truth where they aren't actually contradictory at all. You just needed that tension to see the bigger picture that unifies them.
So contradictions aren't necessarily errors, they can be. Like signposts to deeper understanding.
Yeah.
If you actually grapple with them.
That's the idea. So this whole comparison thing, similarity, difference, especially contradictions, the source presents it as like the primary engine for developing thought.
Actively integrating, testing against what you know, challenging the fit.
And it goes even deeper into this idea of difference, talking about understanding something through its opposite.
Ah, duvar vivcho. A thing and its opposite.
Yes. The idea is that reality itself, creation, is structured with opposites. And to truly get a handle on anything, you need to understand what it's not.
Okay, give me some examples.
Well, think about big concepts. Faith. You understand it better by understanding heresy. Truth versus falsehood. Good versus evil. Honor versus disgrace. Life, death.
So knowing the opposite helps define the boundaries.
Yeah.
makes the concept sharper.
Exactly. You grasp its essence more clearly by seeing the contrast. Now, the source does mention a huge exception. The infinite, God, has
Yeah.
no opposite. So you can't grasp the infinite through this kind of comparison or contrast. It's beyond that kind of intellectual grasp.
Okay, got it. So understanding opposites, a key tool. Where does dot knowledge fit in here? Is it related to Bina?
Oh, deeply related. Da is presented as the power of differentiation itself, the ability to make those fine distinctions, to clearly see the thing and its opposite.
So dot is like the sharp knife Bina uses in its comparison workshop.
That's a really good way to think about it. It allows for that precision in seeing similarity and especially difference. And dot also helps connect things after you've differentiated them.
Okay.
And it's interesting, the source notes, we often see differences most clearly when things are actually quite similar overall. Like comparing two brothers highlights their differences more starkly than comparing, say, a brother and a bookshelf.
Right. The underlying similarity makes the differences pop. Okay, interesting. So method 1, external help, use sparingly. Method 2, internal comparison, using opposites, powered by dot. What's the next big internal method?
This one's called Parok Vaharkava, which basically means breaking down and recomposing.
Breaking down, analysis.
Yeah, but maybe more fundamental. It's taking any idea, any piece of information, and actively deconstructing it, breaking it into its smallest parts.
How does the source show this?
They use a really simple sentence. Reuven left his house for work in the morning.
Okay, straightforward enough.
A passive mind just hears it, files it. An active mind, using Parok, immediately starts asking questions. Where exactly did he leave from? His specific house address? Which city? Where exactly was work? How did he travel? Walk? Bus number? Car model? What time was morning? 8.11, 9590. Did he actually get there?
Whoa, okay, so you're not just taking the statement at face value. You're pulling it apart, seeing all the assumptions, the missing pieces.
Exactly. Uncovering the structure, finding the gaps, but, and this is crucial, the breakdown, the Parok, isn't the final goal. The point is Harkava, recomposition.
Putting it back together.
Yes, but more deeply. You break it down to understand the parts, then you rebuild the original idea with much fuller understanding. Or, even better, you take those parts and see how they connect to parts from other ideas you've broken down.
Ah, like understanding the gears in a watch helps you understand the whole watch, but also helps you understand how gears work in other machines.
Precisely. The source uses a car parts analogy, too. Understanding an engine part helps you fix the engine, but also understand engines generally. This process often reveals things you thought you knew, but didn't really know in detail. Like knowing about Mount Sinai, but realizing you have no idea where it actually is on a map. Or driving the same way to work every day, but if someone asked you to list the towns you passed through, you'd blank because you haven't actively broken down the journey.
Huh. That's true. So this breaking down and rebuilding,
Yeah.
it's like a constant mental workout you apply to everything.
Yeah.
And it builds your capacity.
That's the idea. It's the opposite of just passively receiving information. The source is pretty clear. If you just hear stuff like, bus 53 goes downtown, and file it without breaking it down or comparing it, your mind gets kind of dormant, your thinking stays shallow.
Just collecting facts without connecting them.
Yeah.
Like a mental attic full of random stuff.
Exactly. Training your mind to actively compare, break down, recompose. That's what wakes it up. But it takes time, right? It takes conscious effort, especially for things that matter to you. It's a practice.
Okay, so these are powerful methods: comparison, breakdown, recomposition. But what's the ultimate point? What's the big goal of all this building of thought, this binyan mashaba?
Yeah, this is critical. The source says the main goal isn't just like practical skills. It's not just about inventing the next gadget or making more money, even though those things might happen.
So it's not about becoming, I don't know, a better engineer or CEO necessarily?
Not primarily, no. According to this source, the deeper aim is true building. Building a solid, deep, interconnected internal structure of thought, right inside your own mind.
Building your own inner conceptual world.
Yes. It's about finding the core truth, that spark of Hakma, in every piece of information you encounter, no matter how small. And then using Bina, using these methods to weave all those little threads of wisdom together into one huge integrated tapestry in your mind.
That sounds like why scholars are sometimes called builders, maybe.
Sure.
They're not laying bricks, but building these intricate systems of ideas.
That's exactly the connection the source makes. Without that active internal building, your thought just stays scattered, superficial, like that pile of bricks, not a coherent building.
And how does this connect to our emotions, our inner life? Does building thoughts affect feelings?
Profoundly. It's presented as the essential foundation. A rich inner life isn't only about feelings, love, fear, whatever. Those are crucial and complex too, right? They can be broken down. But for emotions and all parts of you to work together, to be unified, they need a structure to exist within.
And thought provides that structure.
Yes, a unified structure of thought, connecting all the different aspects of reality as you understand them, creates the framework. The source uses this great analogy. Imagine a house with lots of rooms, but no connecting doors inside.
Okay.
Your different emotions, different parts of yourself, they might exist, but they're isolated, disconnected. Real internal unity, the source says, requires building those connecting hallways through structured, developed thought.
That makes me think of that phrase, you shall know this day and take it to your heart. Knowledge first, then internalization.
Precisely, that knowing the structure comes first, enabling the feeling to be truly integrated, truly felt in a unified way. Thought builds the architecture for a connected inner world.
Wow. Okay, this sounds like a serious undertaking. Building this unified system, it's not just about random thoughts then.
Definitely not. The source stresses this isn't built from casual learning or quick hacks. It requires dedicated study, often systematic study building on established wisdom like the words of our sages, as the text puts it. You need solid building blocks.
So structured learning gives you the reliable parts to work with.
Exactly. It provides the foundation. And then the continuous work of Bina, comparing, breaking down, rebuilding, applied to that structure and to everything new you learn, lets you gradually build this broad, unified perspective. It's a deliberate construction project for your mind.
So wrapping up this deep dive then, we've gone from that initial spark, hokma, to seeing that real understanding requires this active internal building project called Bina.
Yeah, it's all about developing the thought, not just having it land.
And the key tools are comparison, really digging into similarities, differences, even contradictions and opposites.
Right, and that other tool, breaking things down into their smallest parts to really understand them, and then recomposing them, connecting them.
Methods that help us spot errors, see what's missing, and ultimately connect everything together.
Builds that internal map.
And the big picture goal, according to the source, isn't just being clever or practical. It's about building that solid, unified inner structure of thought, a framework connecting reality inside your mind.
Which then allows for a truly unified inner life where head and heart, thought and feeling are actually connected, integrated.
A continuous process.
Yeah.
Active construction inside your own head.
Yeah. Pretty amazing stuff.
So the source suggests creation is built on wisdom, and building ourselves internally also relies on this active wisdom-seeking and structuring. Which leaves us maybe with this question for you to think about. How are you dealing with all the information flying at you every day? Are you just letting it pile up? Or are you actively using these tools, comparing, questioning, breaking down, rebuilding to construct the sturdy, connected architecture of your own understanding, building those vital inner pathways?